Why do we suffer? Why does peace feel so elusive, like trying to hold onto water? Only for it to slip through our fingers? Many of us spend our lives chasing after a sense of peace, only to find it slipping away the moment we think we've grasped it. We try to control how others perceive us. We strive to meet endless expectations, and we carry the invisible burden of societal pressures. We ask ourselves, am I good enough? Do people respect me? Am I living up to what the world expects of me? Some of us become trapped in a ceaseless battle to please everyone, fearful that even a single moment of disappointment will define our worth. We adjust our words, mold our behaviors, and sacrifice our own desires just to fit into an image we believe others will accept. Yet, despite all our efforts, peace remains distant. But why? The reason is simple. We care too much about things that do not truly matter. The invisible burden we carry. In Zen and Buddhist philosophy, attachment is the root of suffering. The more we attach ourselves to opinions, judgments, and expectations, the heavier our minds become, like a traveler weighed down by unnecessary baggage. Imagine this. You are walking on a long, winding path. At first, your steps are light. The journey feels exciting. But then, someone hands you a stone, a small one, a mere pebble. This is the expectation of your parents. You barely feel its weight, so you place it in your bag and move forward. A few miles later, someone else hands you another stone. This one represents your fear of disappointing your friends. You hesitate, but you pick it up. Then comes another, your need to be seen as successful. Another, your fear of being judged. Another, your desire to be loved by everyone you meet. One by one, the stones accumulate. The weight grows heavier. Yet, you keep carrying them, convinced that each one is necessary. At first, you can still walk, but as the miles stretch on, your back aches, your steps slow, and your body screams for relief. Yet, you refuse to put the sack down. Why? Because you have convinced yourself that carrying this weight is the only way to survive. This is the invisible burden we all carry. We hold on to grudges, fearing that if we forgive, we will be seen as weak. We hold on to expectations, believing that our worth depends on meeting them. We hold on to fear, convinced that failure or rejection will define us. And yet, with every additional burden, we move further and further away from peace. The art of letting go. But what if you let go? What if, instead of clutching tightly to every judgment, expectation, and fear, you allowed yourself to release them, one by one? True peace does not come from holding on, it comes from learning to let go. Letting go does not mean indifference. It does not mean that you stop caring about life, about people, or about growth. It simply means recognizing what is worth your energy and what is not. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every expectation is worth fulfilling. Not every opinion should shape the way you see yourself. To care less is not to become heartless, it is to become wise. It is to walk through life free of unnecessary burdens, carrying only what truly matters. And to understand this fully, let me share with you a story about a man who carried an invisible burden, much like the one we all carry, and how he discovered the secret to peace through the art of letting go. The story of Daisuke, the invisible burden. Daisuke had always been a perfectionist. From the moment he picked up a hammer as a young apprentice, he had worked tirelessly to master his craft. The villagers admired his skill. His blades were the sharpest, his tools the most durable, and his artistry unmatched. Yet, no matter how much praise he received, a small voice in the back of his mind always whispered, "Is it enough?" He lived in a constant state of tension. If a customer hesitated before thanking him, he questioned whether they were truly satisfied. If a friend seemed distracted in conversation, he wondered if he had unknowingly offended them. He replayed past interactions in his mind, analyzing every detail, convincing himself that he had fallen short in some way. At night, instead of resting, his thoughts swirled endlessly. Did I say the wrong thing? Was my work not good enough? Why did they look at me that way? It was exhausting. Yet, the more he worried, the more he convinced himself that this burden was necessary, that caring so deeply was what made him respected. What made him valuable? The weight of expectation. As time passed, Daisuke's exhaustion grew. Though his hands were strong, his spirit felt heavy. He found himself waking up each morning with a deep sense of weariness, as if he had carried something unbearably heavy through the night. One evening, As he walked home, he saw a group of children playing near the river. They ran freely, their laughter echoing through the air. Daisuke watched as one child tripped and fell into the mud. For a moment, the child froze. Then, instead of crying, he burst into laughter and got up, wiping his clothes without a care. Daisuke couldn't help but envy the boy. When was the last time I moved so freely? When was the last time I lived without worrying about how I appeared to others? That night, as he sat alone in his workshop, staring into the flickering flames of his forge, he realized something. I have made myself a prisoner of expectations that no one even asked me to carry. The weight he bore was not made of iron, but of unseen fears and invisible judgments. And for the first time, he questioned whether it was a weight he truly needed to carry. The Zen master's lesson. Determined to find answers, Daisuke set out early the next morning to visit a Zen master who lived in solitude at the edge of the village. The master was known for his wisdom, and Daisuke hoped that he might offer a way to ease the burden he felt. When he arrived, the old man welcomed him with a warm smile. They sat in silence for a few moments before Daisuke finally spoke. "Sifu, I feel as if I am carrying a great weight, but I do not know how to put it down." The master nodded and, without a word, picked up a small teacup from the table. Slowly, he began to pour tea into it. Daisuke watched as the liquid rose to the brim, expecting the master to stop. But instead, the old man continued pouring. Tea overflowed, spilling onto the table, then onto the floor. Alarmed, Daisuke exclaimed, "Sifu, the cup is full. It cannot hold any more." The master stopped and smiled. "You are like this cup," he said. "Your mind is full of worries, fears, and expectations that do not serve you. You keep adding more, yet you do not let anything go. Tell me, Daisuke, if the cup is already full, how can you receive more?" Daisuke sat in stunned silence. He had always believed that the more he cared, the more he controlled, the better his life would be. But now, he saw the truth. He had been filling himself with burdens that were never his to carry. The art of letting go. That night, back in his workshop, Daisuke sat by the fire. Deep in thought, he picked up a small stone from the ground and rolled it in his palm. "This is my fear of being judged," he whispered. Then, he set the stone down. For a moment, he simply stared at it. He expected to feel something dramatic, a sudden wave of relief. But instead, he just felt lighter. The next morning, he picked up another stone. "This is my need to be liked by everyone." He placed it gently on the ground. Each day, he repeated this practice. One by one, he let go of the burdens he had unknowingly carried for so long. He let go of the belief that every mistake was a failure. He let go of the need to control how others perceived him. He let go of the fear that he was not enough. And with each stone he set down, something extraordinary happened. He began to feel peace. A new way of living. As the days passed, Daisuke noticed subtle but profound changes. He no longer spent his nights overanalyzing conversations. He stopped seeking approval from people who never truly mattered. He laughed more. One afternoon, he was delivering a newly crafted sword to a nobleman when he noticed something strange. He no longer felt anxious about the nobleman's reaction. Whether the man praised or criticized his work, Daisuke knew that it did not define him. And in that moment, he realized he was finally free. One evening, as he walked past the river again, he saw the same group of children playing. This time, without hesitation, he kicked off his sandals and waded into the water. The coolness wrapped around his feet, and for the first time in years, he felt as light as the current itself. He had spent so long trying to hold on to the image of who he thought he needed to be that he had forgotten how to simply be. As he watched the water flow past him, carrying away leaves and twigs without resistance, he understood. Life is not about holding on, it is about learning to let go. Daisuke's story is not just his own, it is ours as well. We all carry invisible burdens. Some of us bear the weight of past mistakes. Others carry unrealistic expectations, and many of us clutch tightly to the opinions of those who do not walk our path. But like Daisuke, we must ask ourselves, do I really need to carry this? Or can I choose to put it down? Letting go is not a single act, but a daily practice. It is a choice to be lighter, freer, and at peace. Lessons from the story. The story of Daisuke teaches us a fundamental truth. Most of the burdens we carry are self-imposed. We cling to expectations, opinions, and the need for validation, believing them to be necessary. But in reality, these attachments rob us of inner peace. To understand the wisdom of letting go, we must reflect on these key lessons. 1. The illusion of control. One of the greatest sources of suffering is the illusion that we can control everything: how others perceive us, how situations unfold, and how life treats us. Many of us live in a state of anxiety, believing that if we try hard enough, plan meticulously, or anticipate every possible outcome, we can shape reality to our liking. But the truth is, life moves according to its own rhythm. Daisuke believed that by constantly monitoring how people reacted to him, he could ensure their approval. But no matter how much he analyzed their expressions or tried to meet their unspoken expectations, he could never fully control their thoughts. The more we try to grasp control, the more exhausted we become. Imagine standing in a river, trying to stop the current with your hands. The harder you resist, the more forceful the water feels against you. But if you let go, if you allow yourself to move with the flow, the resistance disappears. True peace does not come from forcing life into a shape of our choosing, but from learning to trust the natural flow of existence. Ask yourself, how much of your suffering comes from trying to control what you cannot? What would happen if you simply let go? 2. The weight of others' opinions. Daisuke carried the burden of external validation, just as many of us do. From a young age, we are taught to seek approval, to be good, to be successful, to be liked. We become conditioned to believe that our worth is determined by how others perceive us. But this is an impossible game to win. No matter how carefully you craft your image, no matter how much you try to be agreeable, there will always be someone who disapproves. Daisuke lived under the weight of this pressure, constantly adjusting himself in an attempt to fit into what he thought others expected of him. But when he finally placed down the heaviest stone, the need for approval, he felt lighter. And so will you. Think of a bird in the sky. It does not stop mid-flight to wonder, do the other birds think I am flying correctly? It simply flies. Likewise, you were not meant to live bound by the invisible chains of others' expectations. Ask yourself, are you living for others' expectations, or for your own happiness? What would your life look like if you stopped seeking constant validation? 3. The fear of disappointing others. Many of us stay in jobs, relationships, or situations that drain us, all because we fear disappointing someone. We tell ourselves, what if I let go and they are upset? What if they think less of me? But at what cost? How many dreams have gone unfulfilled because of the weight of someone else's expectations? How many people have sacrificed their happiness just to avoid making someone else uncomfortable? Daisuke, 2. Feared letting others down. He placed his own peace second because he believed he was responsible for ensuring everyone's happiness. But the truth is, you are not responsible for managing the expectations of others. Caring less does not mean being careless. It means understanding that you cannot be everything for everyone. Like the river that does not change its path to satisfy every rock in its way. You must not bend yourself to fit into every expectation. The reality is, some people will be disappointed no matter what you do. But you have only one life to live, should it not be yours? Ask yourself, how much of your life is dictated by the fear of letting others down? What would change if you prioritized your own well-being instead? 4. The freedom of letting go. Letting go is an art. It is not about abandoning responsibility, but about choosing what deserves your energy. Daisuke's sack was filled with unnecessary burdens. Just as many of us carry emotional baggage that serves no real purpose. Imagine the weight you would lift by releasing the need to prove yourself, the fear of judgment, the pressure to meet unrealistic expectations. We often think that letting go makes us weak, that if we stop worrying about what others think, we will become careless. But in truth, letting go makes us strong. Consider a tree in the middle of autumn. The leaves, once green and full of life, begin to wither and fall. The tree does not cling to them in fear of being bare. It does not beg the wind to leave them alone. It releases them, knowing that new leaves will come in time. Likewise, we must recognize that not everything is meant to be carried forever. Ask yourself, what are the stones in your life that you can put down today? What is truly worth holding on to? And what is only weighing you down? Daisuke's journey is one that many of us walk. We carry unseen burdens, fearing that without them, we will lose something important: acceptance, validation, belonging. But when we dare to put them down, when we dare to care less about what does not serve us, we find freedom. So ask, what am I still holding on to that is keeping me from peace? The river does not cling to the rocks it passes. It does not pause to complain about obstacles in its path. It does not stop to demand that the stones move aside. It simply flows. It moves forward, not with force, not with resistance, but with ease, adapting to whatever lies ahead. And in doing so, it carves its own path, shaping the world around it without being weighed down by it. Now, imagine waking up each morning without the weight of unnecessary worries. Imagine walking through life without the fear of judgment or the burden of expectations. What would that feel like? What would your days look like if you no longer carried the pressure to be perfect, the need for validation, or the weight of what others think of you? This is the art of letting go, not detachment from life, but freedom within it, the true meaning of caring less. Many people mistake caring less for being cold, indifferent, or selfish, but in reality, caring less does not mean caring about nothing. It means caring about the right things. It means choosing to focus on what truly matters: your well-being, your growth, the relationships that nourish your soul, the values that align with your truth. Daisuke spent years carrying a burden that was never his to bear. His need for approval, his fear of disappointing others, his attachment to expectations, these were the stones in his sack. But when he let them go, he discovered something incredible: peace, freedom, lightness. And this is where his journey meets ours. Your journey starts today. Daisuke's story is not just a story, it is a mirror. It reflects the struggles we all experience. We, too, have carried unnecessary weights. We, too, have clung to expectations that suffocate us. We, too, have let the opinions of others shape our sense of self. But like Daisuke, we also have a choice. The river does not resist. It flows. The tree does not cling to its leaves in autumn. It lets them fall. And you, too, can release what no longer serves you. So ask yourself today, what stones am I ready to put down? Where in my life can I learn to flow like water? Because in the end, true peace does not come from holding on. It comes from having the courage to let go. If this message resonated with you, subscribe for more Zen and Buddhist wisdom. And remember, you do not have to carry everything. You are free to flow.